Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's The In Show, Australia's only show dedicated to innovation from Adelaide, Australia and across the globe.
Hi, this is David Grice and Troy Sincock, and we're talking to innovators and entrepreneurs and startups, those people with great ideas who are really making them a reality. We hear about the challenges they've faced along the way and the wisdom they've acquired, and the advice they've got to share is absolutely invaluable.
This week, we're adding another country to our list. We're now in 14 countries, so welcome Italia!
Yes!
On the In Show today, Eva Balan-Vnuk, State Director of Microsoft in South Australia, talks about their Innovation Centre and how social skills are becoming the most valuable human-led technology. And we'll speak to Wandering Sound, whose new innovative app is set to see people exploring their city in new ways while discovering music along the way.
Now here's Claire with more in news, including a story about how you can control your TV with a cup of tea. What else have you got for us, Claire?
Cheers, David and Troy. In America, a team has developed an app which can potentially cure the incurable. It's a treatment program called Curable. The app is based on the scientific concept that chronic pain sufferers experience a rewiring of their brain, which causes them to feel more pain than they should be experiencing. For example, if you broke your arm, the nerves would send messages to your brain that you're in pain and need to heal. The aim of the app is to undo the brain's sensitivity to pain by providing behavioural therapy and mindfulness techniques. Now, this may seem far-fetched, but medical professionals around the world are using the same scientific approach. So it's not uncommon for medical practices to treat chronic pain as a malfunction in perception, whether there's a physical cause or not. So far, 75% of Curable's users say their pain has decreased since they started using the app. Speaking of apps, American Irani Firouzeh Mahmoudi's battling the oppressive Iranian regime one Android app at a time. Firouzeh developed a contest called Irancubator, which seeks to create apps that help promote and protect the civil freedoms of women living in Iran. The basic and simple-to-use apps are a sly way of providing victims and the oppressed with life-saving information. One of these apps is called Taranch. It provides domestic violence victims with information and easy-to-access services, including lawyers and therapists. Another of the apps is called Hamdan, which was launched in March. It tracks its users' period cycles and provides information about marriage contracts, STDs and other taboo issues. Hamdan was created by French-Iranian Soudeh Rad, who was beaten by her husband when living in Iran and told she had no rights when she mentioned she wanted to get a divorce. After her husband tried to ban her from leaving the country, she took a flight to escape. Soudeh believes the app empowers women to take control of their bodies and helps them understand their rights. It's absolutely incredible to see technology being used to promote human rights and change lives. In the UK, a team of academics are creating a system that can turn anything into a television remote. The researchers from Lancaster University have developed Matchpoint, which could eradicate the "I've lost the remote" panic that we all suffer. This system uses a custom interface, webcam and motion detector. These few tools enable the user to do things like adjust the music setting on a tablet, change television channels and much more. It does this by giving the user the power to choose an object or body part to use as a pointer. The real point of difference, though, is that the system registers movement rather than the specific body part or object. This makes it easier to use and more effective. Chris has also revealed that the system could be used by people who are multitasking. For example, if the user's following a set of online instructions when cooking, they could use the technology to make their sticky wooden spoon a pointer instead of using their dirty hands to press the buttons. At the moment, it's a working prototype, but hopefully it'll be made available commercially soon. And that's what's in news this week.
Thanks, Claire. Well, David, what would you like to control your TV with?
Well, I was going to ask you the same question. I mean, could I poke my tongue out at it?
I'm just afraid that with gesture control, you could potentially be, scratching something, and next thing you know, you're 4 channels away from where you were supposed to be.
Could a pull on the ear mean that it goes to Channel 10 or who knows? My son, he never turns the TV off. If I could just give him a signal that he could wave his arm or something and it would turn off, it'd be fantastic.
And it really does save that problem of finding the remote, which is a massive issue in a lot of households. Who put it where and where can I find it now? Days can go by without anyone actually being able to change the channel channel on the television.
Actually, I just thought of something. The best thing that he could do to turn the TV off is walk out of the room. That would be the way to do it.
It actually makes a lot of sense in terms of, saving power and all that kind of thing as well.
Absolutely.
David Grice and Troy Sincock talking innovation on The In Show. You can check us out at theinshow.online, Facebook, and follow The In Show on Twitter. Next, we speak with Eva Balan-Vnuk, State Director of Microsoft in South Australia, helping organisations achieve digital transformation using technology as a key enabler.
It's all about innovation. The In Show.
Adelaide is starting to be recognised as a smart city, nationally and globally. The City of Churches is rapidly gaining a reputation as the city for innovation. Smart city innovation is becoming a big part of our future. The Adelaide Smart City Studio is supporting people that are creating new smart city products and services for global markets. What we've taken for granted is now being embraced by residents and visitors alike. Adelaide Smart City Studio, creating opportunities.
Hi, I'm Louise Nobes from Inspired By, and you're listening to The In Show.
It's David Grice and Troy Sincock, and if you've missed an episode, make sure you subscribe to the In Show podcast on iTunes. In the next 10 minutes, we'll hear how a new music app is encouraging people to explore their own city in a new way.
The In Show.
Eva Balan-Vnuk is the National Skills Program Lead and State Director of Microsoft in SA, helping organisations achieve digital transformation using technology as a key enabler. Eva, tell me about Microsoft coming to Adelaide.
Well, we've been Adelaide actually for quite a while now, a couple of decades, and helped the government back in the day in the 1990s actually set up the first centralised email exchange service for SA government, which sounds like a really small thing, except that what it means is people in different departments in SA government can actually see in each other's calendars and make appointments. So I reckon we've helped a little bit in the productivity of government over the last few decades.
That is absolutely amazing now to even think of a time that didn't exist. You say it's simple, but how that changed our lives.
Absolutely. If you think when Microsoft started, it was the vision of PC on every desk in every home, and everyone's got supercomputers in their pockets. And I think what's fascinating now is that the pace of change is just getting faster and faster. Our ability as humans, I guess, to absorb that change is quite challenging. But I think we've got a responsibility, certainly as Microsoft, to make sure we don't leave anyone behind in this digital economy.
I can see you're very passionate about that, and that is definitely a bit of a threat for some people, particularly older workers, I suppose, who have been doing things a certain way. And this change is going to come at a period of their lives where some of the work they're doing may not be done in the same way in the future.
Absolutely. And look, I would say that unfortunately there is a bit of a negative narrative around automation, the fear the robots are going to come and take us over. I think it's quite a long time before that happens. I actually think there's a lot of positivity about this change. Yes, jobs will change. And while we have workers right now who are being displaced, for example, our automotive supply chain workers are in some challenges now, we have workers who might have a very process-orientated role right now and are very comfortable in their employment, but actually we can probably see in 2 to 5 years they will need to gain new skills in order to stay employed. So I think the penny hasn't quite dropped for a large number of people in our community about this requirement for lifelong learning. I do see a great opportunity because as we look at what technology and automation is doing, it's actually taking away some of the dirty, dangerous jobs that we actually don't want people to be doing. And I really hope that this gives us an opportunity as humans to embrace more of our humanity, our creativity, our innovation, our artistic side. So I'm really hopeful that hopefully some of this drudge work gets taken away by technology. We'll still need very smart people creating those solutions. But I think for the rest of us, how does our humanity even come more to the front than it is now?
So tell us how you actually got to be working at Microsoft. What's your journey leading up to that?
Well, I'm an Adelaide girl, so I'm from here originally, and my dad gave me some sage advice when I was young. He said, look, work for a company that people know their name. You don't have to explain. So I pretty much got my first job with Microsoft as an intern in Vienna. So I was in Austria for 5 years. I met my husband there. I got tired of -20, and so we headed to Singapore, where I had a regional role across Asia, and then my husband and I moved back to Adelaide with our daughter at the time, and we came back to do PhDs. And then I serendipitously got a job back at Microsoft, working in our office here in Adelaide, working primarily with the South Australian government.
So your PhD, what did you do that in?
I did a PhD looking at non-profit social enterprises, organisations that are non-profit but have a trading activity underneath to support them, and I was interested in their business model strategies. How do they take their expertise, their passion, their focus on their mission and generate their own revenue from that and create new ways of generating revenue and income? I think it's taught me a lot about thinking differently and appreciating there are different paths to come to a problem. And I think when you work in any kind of environment, and particularly, I love working with our startups in our innovation centre, it's appreciating people from the journey that they've come on and then helping them with what's relevant to them and not being arrogant enough to presume that I know what they want. I don't know. So let's have a bit of humility and let's ask them and be curious about what they need, and then through that give them the support that's best for them.
I think what we've discovered through interviewing so many interesting people on the In Show thus far is that while many of them might be involved in creating emerging technologies and that kind of thing, it's really how they think behind all that that makes all the difference and enables these things to happen.
Oh, I would agree. And I think what's incredible is when I think of the cohort of startups that we support and entrepreneurs and new businesses, what they have in common is they have a really clear understanding of a particular problem in our society. It's either a commercial problem, it's a social problem, and they galvanise their resources around how to address that problem. And that's, I think, the secret to success, really, because if you can articulate what you're trying to fix and you can build a revenue model around that, then I think you can be sustainable. And we feel a huge sense of responsibility in how do we help those organisations get access to technology, get access to mentoring, plug them into our wonderfully small and intimate community of innovators in South Australia, and give them that leg up by introducing them to enterprise customers who can actually pay for their services so they can grow their business.
So is that predominantly what the Enterprise Centre is all about?
Yeah, look, our Innovation Centre has a couple of goals, I guess. One is we certainly came in, again, with, I guess, a bit of humility to say, look, we're not going to reinvent whatever's been done before. If there's a gap, then we look to fill that. And the gap that we were looking at, technology support and technology background. And, we have people pushing the envelope and pushing the barriers on our technology platform. If they get stuck, then we connect them with our engineers and we help them resolve that so that they can accelerate the development of their solution. But equally, what we do is once they get to a mature point where they can have a commercial transaction with another business, then we actually introduce them to our enterprise customers. And I think the value of this is it's me and my team putting our reputations on the line, I guess, by inviting our customers and our partners into a room and allowing 3 startups at a time to showcase what they're doing.
And so tell us about the technology platform that you're referring to.
Sure. So I'm really referring to Microsoft Azure. That's our hyperscale enterprise cloud solution. If you think about it, if I'm a startup, now is the absolute best time to think about starting a business because you don't even have to buy your own infrastructure. In fact, you don't even have to be a real technologist because we're democratising technology in such a way that you can plug and play. You certainly need some smart people with tech skills to help you, but you can plug and play with different solutions like machine learning and predictive analytics. Now, these capabilities were really only available to significant large corporations and governments even 5 years ago. So the access to the power and the speed of the compute and the ability for those startups to flex and be nimble in their solution, I think is where we can add a lot of value, and they can pull together different APIs and applications to really craft and hone their solution.
You talked about the best people in this field being those that really can identify a need and the desire to fix something that can be better. What are you doing primarily in that space? Is it all about efficiency and connecting people?
A lot of it is certainly efficiency. Startups are notorious for saying we don't have a lot of cash, right? So if we can help them be more efficient in terms of how they set up their business and how they find customers and go to market, absolutely we'll do that. I think fundamentally, if I go back to actually what Microsoft cares about, our mission is to empower every person and every organisation on the planet to achieve more in whatever way that means for them. And again, back to, I guess, the earlier comments about automation and disruption to different industries, we certainly feel a responsibility, being a technology creator, that we don't let people fall behind in the digital divide, because certainly there is one. And our concern is that if we don't do something to address that, then I think it'll have quite significant negative social ramifications. And there are communities that are already more vulnerable. And so how do we help those people, I guess, catch up and have work? And maybe we're teaching them to be entrepreneurs in the process. We want there to be job creators, not job takers. There's a great statistic that's from the last innovation report from the federal government that said companies less than 5 years old are the creators of net new jobs. Businesses over 5 years old are more likely to be shedding jobs. So I think we've got an amazing imperative, to help new businesses, and that's in any industry. I'm not being exclusive about technology, although I think most businesses would have a technology element to their solution. I think as a community, we have a requirement to support new businesses and help them grow.
So as a startup, I've got an idea. I want to build something. So I come to Microsoft Innovation Centre. What do you do for me?
Great question, David. So we're really fortunate we have an incredible intern, Nehal Jain. She's actually a software engineering student at Adelaide University, and her role is to meet with the entrepreneurs who come to us and help understand where we can add value. Because, again, we don't want to waste anyone's time, and if we can't help, then we're very open, but we'll also help them navigate, I guess, the innovation ecosystem. There's some great resources through Department of State Development, and Paul Daly at Adelaide City Council's got this amazing entrepreneurs map. We'll help connect them with others where we think maybe they've got more benefit, and then we give them access to our technology and, as I said, help them mature their business processes so that we can actually introduce them to our enterprise customers and help them launch their business to the world.
So you're able to then look at the idea and then look at how your platform is able to enable that company to build on top of the existing platform. So you've got the tools and all the ability there for anybody basically to make their idea real.
Yeah, have a go, be creative and take a risk. I think we've unfortunately got a real challenge, I think, sometimes in our society that failure is really a dead end. I think fail means first attempt in learning. If I've never done it before, oh my God, I might not get it right. But as long as I've learned from that and I've experimented, and that's really the growth mindset from Professor Carol Dweck. If I can understand that I do need to experiment and learn, and we can build some more courage, I guess, in our community, that we've got to try.
One of the things I love actually about hearing you talk about fail is I love the way that the tech industry as such celebrates the failure, as opposed to other industries that I know they just fear it so much. And yet I think so many industries have got so much to learn from tech, not just from the technology and the capabilities of it, but it's how they celebrate failure. Are you across some really, really bad ones that sort of, are disastrous?
There are some disasters. I'll take a disaster that I think shows another point from the car industry when they made airbags. And so when the airbags were released and put into cars, this is a technology solution in a way, the airbags, when there were crashes, a disproportionate number of women were actually killed. And so when they went back to the design and the architecture team for that solution, they were all men. They hadn't actually provisioned and thought about how to tailor the design for women. So they went back to the drawing board, brought women into the group, and then when they re-released the product, it didn't have this detriment to women, to one gender. When you go back to talking about failure, to me, it's actually vulnerability. And being vulnerable, it takes a lot of courage to do that. We learnt a lot at Microsoft through Windows 10. So Windows 10's released a few years ago now, but the release cycle previously, which I'm sure all the listeners will know, was, these mega 3-year release cycles with big fanfare, something's released, isn't that amazing? With Windows 10, we flipped that completely upside down. We invited our consumers, our customers, to actually get onto the very, very early versions and essentially beta test with us, dog food it, and give us feedback. And they saw the mistakes, and then they'd say, hey, no, give me that capability back, I liked it, or God, that was awful, take it away. But we had 1 million people around the world who took part in our Windows Insider program because we want their feedback. And if we want to create solutions for the world, like I think most of our startups do, you can't have a homogenous culture, and you certainly have to listen. You've got to have empathy, because without empathy, I think you can't actually innovate. And I didn't make that up. That's Satya Nadella in his new book, Hit Refresh. So...
Well, it's been absolutely fascinating chatting to you, Eva. Congratulations on the work that you're doing and your approach too. It's wonderful to know that those basic human skills are in very high demand, and it seems to me that just by virtue of being human, we all have access to those things, and seeing how that can then work with technology it's a very exciting time for us.
It's incredible, and I will just make one really important point. Technology is not the solution. Technology does not solve problems. People do. And people understand what the solutions are. So technology really can just be an enabler, and if it can make people happier, healthier, smarter, fantastic, but don't lose sight of its people who are actually doing the important work.
Eva Balan-Vnuk from Microsoft SA, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's David Grice and Troy Sincock on The In Show. Subscribe to iTunes and listen to The In Show podcast for more innovations. And while you're there, if you're enjoying it, give us a 5-star rating. Next, we'll speak to Melissa Miller from Wandering Sound, whose new app is set to launch a new album in a world first.
Download the Phoner app before you head to your next event. Find people easier, market yourself better, and get connected using Phoner. That's spelled PFONR. Phoner. Available in the App Store now.
Hi, I'm Robin Freeth from TEDx Adelaide, and you're with Troy and David on The In Show.
The In Show.
We're joined by Melissa Miller, who is behind the business strategy, marketing and communications of startup Wandering Sound, who won the Music Tech Jam Challenge in 2016. She's got a new app called Sound Pocket, who artist Tim Witt is part of.
Hello.
Tim and Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Troy.
Now, tell us how it all began, because obviously you had an idea before you did the Music Tech Jam Challenge. How far developed was it at that point?
It was just an idea, and we came together as a team in the networking that Musitech did. So about 4 weeks before the challenge, none of us in the group knew each other.
So who actually had the idea?
That was one of the developers. I think it was Dave.
And how has it gone from that stage, obviously winning some investment and then some assistance from IBM? How has that helped you get to this point? How far along the path are you right now?
It's sort of a long and winding road, I think, for startups. But it has really helped us focus and bring a company together. It would have been hard to get established without some of that initial funding. Adelaide City Council also gave us $2,000, which helped us to do all that paperwork to set up a company.
Through the process of winning the Music Tech Jam Challenge and then moving towards launch, was there anything unexpected that you discovered along the way?
I think there are lots of little things with technology, really tiny things about how the tech works. I discovered a lot how different people think. So in our core team, I'm working with 2 developers, IT developers, and they're probably thinking the same thing. Melissa thinks really differently. So working out what other people know, what they don't know, and what their assumptions are, it takes a little bit of time.
And developers' timelines often aren't what people that aren't developers understand, are they? And it's quite challenging to get from point A to point B with developers.
That's true. And there's a lot of detail as well, which is great because it has to work and it has to work well. But it can take a lot longer than you think. Our guys, though, are really focused on the deadline and getting things out. So they're pretty good at meeting those timelines.
So tell us about the app.
The app is called Sound Pocket, and it enables you to discover music as you walk around the city of Adelaide. We want people to have a really lovely experience as they move around the town and find music that's connected to the city. We're really excited that with our launch, we're launching with Tim Witt, who is launching an album on Sound Pocket, and he's really tied this to, I don't want to say too much, but he has connected this to location in a really special way.
So when you say connected it to location, what does that actually mean?
It means by moving around, you're discovering music.
So presumably if you're walking down East Terrace, you're going to hear something different to walking down Rundle Mall.
Yeah, that's the idea. Absolutely. We're just at early stages now, and we're working with Tim with this initial launch. Down the track, we want to have a lot more on it.
And do you get to control what plays, or does what plays control you by virtue of where you are?
At the moment, it's the latter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So as we go, we'll explore different things, but it's the latter.
Well, Tim, tell us about your background and why this was an attractive proposition for you to get involved.
Well, I started making an album of sounds that were recorded in Adelaide and then manipulated into music. So I was walking around the city with my microphones, just recording sounds and then taking them home and piecing them together to make full tracks. And so when it came time to release the album, it was sort of made a natural progression so that the album should be experienced within the city where it was made. I had this idea that I would have liked to have had a location-based launch where you hear the songs at specific locations, and I put a call out saying, does anyone know developers who would be able to do this? And then literally Alex got in contact with me saying, hey, we just started a company that does exactly this. And so it was just such an incredibly fortunate event that we teamed up. And so, they were doing exactly what I was hoping to do. And so, together now, I'm able to release the album in this fully immersive experience where you go and you hear these sounds that were created from the city at specific locations within the city that you wouldn't, interesting sounds that you wouldn't normally hear at locations that you wouldn't normally find on your own.
What an amazing turn of good fortune. To think that if, Tim, you hadn't put it on social media and put the call out, you literally could have had exactly the same idea as the guys from Wandering Sound.
Yes.
And potentially looked at how you could get it off the ground yourself.
Yeah. I was like, okay, well, I can sort of scrape together this small startup capital, but it was nowhere near enough what would actually be involved in starting a company that would do that. Everyone said I was nuts. And then I just happened to find Wandering Sound, and it was a match made in heaven.
It was fantastic.
Not Heaven the nightclub.
So I can just imagine this is going to be really interesting for tourists and people coming to Adelaide for the first time, particularly that they'll get to not only experience the sights but actually understand the sounds from a musical journey through the city as well.
Yes, absolutely. We'd really like to explore that part of it, have some, maybe some old songs around town, people who've written songs here or played here for the first time, and a whole range of artists. You can imagine something Jimmy Barnes played for the first time when he was just a young guy starting out in music, right next to something else that someone's playing next week, a gig coming up next week. So we're really hoping to move in that direction down the track.
I just had a great idea. Patent pending in this, by the way. So we go out and record events, like large-scale events that are happening like as they happen right now, and then you put them into Sound Pocket later. So like say there's like a really big demonstration, like the big Vote Yes demonstration outside Parliament House, and then you put that into Sound Pocket later. So as you're walking along, you can hear the sounds of the people at their demonstration and just know that this event happened here at that time.
That's a wonderful idea. I mean, when you were talking about it, that's what came up for me was, the thought that you could actually retrace the city's history, and what a wonderful thing for a father to take his son or daughter to the place where he first discovered an artist and have them hear what he experienced at the time.
Yeah, it's amazing. And look, I think the spin-outs of this is just going to be extremely good. And are you thinking just more about local artists that are in and around Adelaide, or is this going to be open a bit broader than that?
We need to take it step by step. So we do want to work with local artists, and part of our mission is to really support local artists and have this set up in such a way that works for artists and venues and us as technology providers as well. We would love to broaden it across a whole range of mediums, walks or sounds or songs. We'd really love to take it further down the track.
Mm-hmm. And how do you step that out? Because I'm sure that happens with developers. Once you start talking to other people, there's a myriad of ideas. This thing can get massive before you even begin. How do you make those decisions?
There are so many ideas and there's never enough time to implement them. You have to get really disciplined, and usually what we've found is when a deadline is set, you start knocking out those things that are nice to haves and really focus on delivering.
So when is this all going to happen?
Tim?
So I'm leading walking tours around to some of the sites to show them the music and give a bit of artist insights and backstory behind the songs and how it all came together.
Can you tell me about some of the sites? Because I expect that these aren't, the normal places that tourists go to. It's places that you can create sound. So this could be like down a dark alley and behind a bin.
Pretty much, yes. And I guarantee I will not be waiting there with a baseball bat to rob you.
Just making people buy your album.
Click download, buddy. Yeah. So I didn't want to go for the standard places that everyone finds. Like, here's Rundle Mall, here's Victoria Square. We've done those before. And so I really searched hard to find interesting locations that were off the beaten path. So back alleys off back alleys where there's a really interesting piece of street art or just a nice sort of or different kind of ambient feel to what you would normally get just walking down Grenfell Street. Yeah, I kind of wanted it because you hear the sounds from the city in a different way, and then so I wanted it to kind of experience being in the city in a different way as well. And so that's kind of what I was trying to bring to the project. Just trying to find interesting little unique locations that would then make the most of Sound Pocket, to create this whole immersive experience.
And I've got to say, I've never heard of any album being launched in this way anywhere in the world. So I think that's a really exciting thing in itself, and I think there's some really good media opportunities around that you guys could explore for sure.
Everyone's been really interested in it. Actually, it's a different kind of thing. Where it's like, you're releasing an album. Like, okay, the album's made from noises around the city. Oh, okay. And it's being released on an interactive app where it uses your location to play music at you. And then, wow, I'm hooked. Tell us more.
Melissa, tell me, do you see as integral to the success of Sound Pocket you partnering with Tourism Commission or something like that? Is that where you see this heading?
Look, there are a lot of directions we could take. We really want to engage with artists and venues as well. We could certainly partner with the government department as well on what they want to promote, or the Tourism Commission to promote the city, but we're also focused on venues and artists. What's really interesting is that all of those groups have different needs. So one of the things we'll be trying to work out is like, what do artists need when they're promoting the song? So that could be, the information that the users can see, but venues need other information, other stuff from us. So they might want to promote things in advance, they might want to be able to advertise. We're trying to think about how to deal with those competing interests and look after different stakeholders. It's tricky. The music business doesn't look after artists very well. So I think we've got a challenge ahead of us.
And are you looking to potentially do this in other cities around the world as well?
Well, that would be a great career move. I wouldn't be averse to that. I can think of a few cities where it would work really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also the fact that LA recently got the UNESCO City of Music title, and then I love the fact that this is literally turning the city into music.
And I think a lot of people are switched on by Adelaide being the city of music. It makes people think more about music and support it more. So that has definitely been a big help as well.
Well, Melissa Miller from Wandering Sound and Tim Witt, thanks so much for joining us on The In Show.
Thanks, Troy.
Thanks for having us.
It's all about innovation on The In Show, and if you've got an event you'd like us to highlight, just drop us a line at theinshow.online, and you can check us out on Facebook and Twitter.
Next week on The In Show.
We chat to Tim Angel, Managing Director of Cortex Interactive, who solve business problems by providing immersive experiences that encourage participation. And one of the first recipients of a dermal implant in Australia, Richard Edwards, talks about leading a keyless lifestyle.
Claire will have more weird and wonderful innovations from around the world, and make sure you check out theinshow.online, subscribe to iTunes, listen to the podcast, rate us 5 stars if you enjoy it, find out more about this week's guests, you can share an innovation you're working on, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Well, it's been another great show again this week. We'll talk more about what's in next Monday on The In Show. Now, before we go, let's hear from the winner of the Winnovation Award for Technology, Marina Pullen, who's telling us what winning this year's award means to her.
Hi, my name's Marina Pullen. I'm the Managing Director of MCBI, and I'm also the extremely proud recipient of the Women in Innovation Award for Technology for our work on the Jungle platform. So the Jungle platform started in its idea probably about 4 or 5 years ago, where we noticed in professional services that clients were starting to think, you know what, we don't want people all the time. We would like to be able to call on them as required. And at the same time, we started to see within the workforce, people were also wanting a bit more of a casual relationship, particularly white-collar professionals. And so with that, we thought, well, let's build a platform to connect them. It was a bit crazy back then, and it was a very hard technology solution we decided to pursue, like why do something easy? And funny enough, our inspiration came from the emergence of the online dating world. And so we all had a lot of fun as technologists creating false profiles. So all you guys, there are a few people who you might have met on online dating. Yeah, that was us software architects.
So what does winning this award mean to you?
Truly 2 things come to mind. One is probably like lots of people, I don't pause enough to go, I've done it. And I think entrepreneurs and innovators, we just keep going. We're driven by something. And when you get an award, you just pause and you soak it in and you get to know yourself again and go, oh my God, how on earth did I do that? And it's also a good chance to reflect on all the people who've helped shape, all the good and the bad. And I would be remiss in not mentioning my extremely crazy, strong mother, who put up with an extremely annoying child and somehow failed to beat the spirit out of me, because God knows she tried in a beautiful way. But my mum also instilled 2 ideas of good, better, best. Never let it rest. So the good is better and the better is best. And she also, when I would do things really naughty and I'd go, but I thought, she would say to me, well, you know what thought did? And those 2 things, I think, sort of shaped me. Yeah, and I get an award like this and I go, you know what, right? You're right, Mum. You know what thought did?
That was The In Show. Subscribe to The In Show podcast on iTunes. Presented by David Grice and Troy Sincock. News by Shannon Chamberlain and Claire Murphy. Music by Zach Grice. Produced by Jason Walker. The In Show, brought to you by Adelaide Smart City Studio.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.